My name is Ava Mercer. I'm 30, and I work as a physical therapist in Boston. One of those jobs where you spend your day helping other people stand back up while quietly making sure you don't collapse yourself. 2 years ago, I thought I was about to propose to the man I loved. I didn't know I was walking into the night that would split my life clean in half. If you've ever held a secret in your pocket, something small but heavy, like a promise, you know the feeling I had that Friday. Calm on the outside, a whole thunderstorm behind the ribs. My weeks were long shifts at the clinic. Nothing glamorous, just steady work, steady money, steady purpose. People came in broken, ACL tears, post-op knees, car accident backs, and I taught them how to trust their bodies again. I understood healing. What I didn't understand yet was how betrayal heals, how it doesn't, how it just scars. My boyfriend's name was Ethan Cole. He worked remote in marketing, the kind of job that somehow gave him time for yoga, self-care, and those midday reset walks he loved to post about. We'd been together 4 years. I'd been saving for a ring for almost half that time. Not because he demanded it. Ethan was never that blunt. He was subtler, little jokes, little hints, little, "When are we upgrading from boyfriend status?" comments dropped like confetti whenever we passed a jewelry store. And I believed him. I believed we were building something. That Friday, I clocked out a little early. My last patient hit her range of motion goals. I signed the chart, and the clinic lights were already half off, like the building itself was exhaling. I texted Riley Cruz, "Gym in 10?" Riley was my best friend, the person who believed in tough love the way some people believe in religion. She worked EMT shifts and lifted like she was personally offended by gravity. She responded with a flex emoji. We hit the little neighborhood gym a few blocks from work. I changed into an old hoodie and went straight to the bench press. Riley started telling me about some chaotic call she'd had, something about a guy who thought his toe was broken because he stubbed it and wanted an ambulance like it was an Uber. "You spend all day fixing people," Riley said, loading plates. "And I spend all day watching people create their own emergencies." "Tell me who's smarter," she added. "The one with rotator cuffs intact," I said. She laughed. "Rack the bar. You still planning that thing tonight?" "Yeah," I said, like it didn't matter, like my pulse wasn't climbing, like my whole life wasn't balanced on a yes. Riley's eyes sharpened. "You got the ring?" "Got the ring." "You got the food?" "I'm stopping after." She nodded like a coach before a big game. "Don't overthink it. Just do it." "I don't overthink," I said. Riley raised an eyebrow. "I underfeel," I corrected. "That's worse." "Exactly," she said, and we both laughed, because it was easier to laugh than admit I was terrified of wanting something this much. 30 minutes later, we wrapped up. I stopped at the Thai place on the way home. Pad Thai with extra lime, Ethan's favorite. And inside the pocket of my jacket sat the small black velvet box I'd been hiding under a stack of resistance bands at work like it was contraband. Simple platinum ring. Clean. Minimal. Nothing flashy. I'd been planning this night for weeks. I took the elevator up to our apartment with that strange calm you get right before something big, like your body knows it should brace, but your brain is still pretending. The hallway smelled like Ethan's candle, sandalwood and vanilla, but heavier than usual, like he'd gone overboard. The second I unlocked the door, something in me went alert. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just wrong. Shoes I didn't recognize sat by the couch. A black jacket draped over the chair. And the playlist coming from the speaker wasn't Ethan's focus music. It was some indie nonsense I'd heard once, years ago, when Ethan's ex used to show up at parties like she owned the oxygen. My brain connected the dots before my heart could catch up. I didn't call out. I just carried the takeout through the living room, slow, like if I moved carefully enough, I could keep reality from snapping shut. Halfway down the hall, I heard laughter. Ethan's, then a woman's voice, low and bright like a secret. My fingers tightened around the plastic bag. I pushed the bedroom door open, and there they were. Ethan froze halfway upright, sheets tangled around his waist, eyes wide like he'd been caught stealing. And on the bed, hair spilled over the pillow like she belonged there, was Lara Daniels, his ex-girlfriend, the woman Ethan had described as ancient history, the woman I'd been told not to worry about. She stared at me for half a second, then smiled, small and sharp, like she'd been waiting for this moment. For a heartbeat, nobody spoke. Then I walked in, set the takeout bag on the dresser, opened one of the boxes, and said very calmly, "Pad Thai's getting cold. Don't stop on my account." Ethan's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Ava." Lara shifted under the sheet like a queen adjusting her crown. "Well," she murmured, "this is awkward." Ethan scrambled for his jeans like his hands had forgotten how fabric worked. I stepped aside, making space, because I wasn't going to fight over a doorway. He bolted past me, barefoot, knocking into the dresser hard enough to rattle the lamp. "Ethan!" Lara snapped after him, suddenly annoyed that he wasn't staying to defend her. His footsteps slapped down the hall. The front door opened, slammed. And then it was just me and Lara in the quiet. The music kept playing, soft and ridiculous, like the universe had terrible timing. Lara sat up slowly, pulling the sheet tighter around her chest, eyes shining with something that looked almost like victory. Ethan's phone buzzed on the nightstand. Mine didn't, because the world doesn't warn you before it breaks you. "Ava," Lara said, voice sweet as a blade, "before you start acting crazy." I laughed once, not because it was funny, because it was unreal. "Crazy?" I repeated. "This is my bedroom." She blinked, still trying to keep control of the room. "Ethan and we have history." "You mean you have access," I said. Her smile twitched. "You don't understand him the way I do." I looked at her, really looked. And what I felt wasn't jealousy. It was clarity, the kind that shows up when a lie finally admits it's been lying. I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out the velvet box. For the first time, Lara's expression flickered. I flipped it open. The ring caught the lamplight. Small, bright, innocent. "I was going to propose tonight," I said, almost conversational, like I was sharing the weather. Lara's mouth parted. Then she recovered fast, eyes narrowing. "You were going to trap him." I turned the box slightly, looked at the ring like it belonged to someone else's life. Then I closed it, and I set it down on the nightstand, right beside Ethan's buzzing phone. "Don't worry," I said softly. "The return policy's still good." Lara sat up straighter. "Ava, wait." I backed toward the door. She swung her legs off the bed, sheet clutched to her, like she could still pretend she had dignity. "This doesn't have to be like this," she said quickly. "Ethan makes mistakes. He always what?" I asked. "Runs back to you when he's bored?" Her face flushed. "He loves me." I nodded once, like I was accepting a business fact. "Then take him," I said, "and take the version of me that used to believe him." I turned and walked out. No screaming. No throwing things. No dramatic collapse. Just footsteps down a hallway that suddenly felt too long. Behind me, Lara called my name. Sharp, angry, offended that I wasn't giving her the performance she wanted. I didn't look back. Because I could already feel it. This wasn't over. Not for her. Outside, the cold hit my face like a slap. I got in my car, set the takeout on the passenger seat, and drove to a quiet parking lot behind the clinic, my hands steady on the wheel like my body had switched into survival mode. I sat there with the engine running, staring at the ring box in my head like it was still in my pocket. 1 hour earlier, I was a woman about to kneel into a future. Now I was someone else entirely. I took out my phone and sent one text to Ethan. "You just saved me a lifetime. Congrats." Then I blocked him. Then I opened the pad thai. It was already cooling. So was my old life. And somewhere deep in my chest, beneath the shock, beneath the ache, something else started forming. Not rage, not revenge, a promise. If Lara wanted to rewrite my story, she was going to learn the hard way that I don't stay in chapters where I'm treated like a placeholder. The funny thing about walking away without slamming a door is that the sound still follows you. It just echoes differently. That night in the parking lot behind the clinic, I didn't cry. Not because I was tough. Not because I didn't love Ethan. I didn't cry because my brain was busy filing everything into categories like it was a case study. What happened? What it meant? What I needed to do next. My hands shook once on the steering wheel, a quick tremor like my body trying to remind me I was still human. Then they steadied. I finished the pad thai in silence, cold noodles and lime, and stared at the windshield like it might show me a version of myself that still made sense. 1 hour earlier, I'd been carrying a ring in my pocket, like hope. Now hope felt naive. Not stupid, just young. I drove home, except it wasn't home anymore, so I didn't go back. I drove to a 24-hour pharmacy, bought a bottle of water I didn't drink, and sat under fluorescent lights until the sky started turning gray. When the morning came, the world kept moving like nothing had happened. That was the first betrayal. Not Ethan. The fact that life doesn't pause when yours breaks. By noon, I'd done what I always do when I'm bleeding internally. I made a plan. Return ring. Find short-term lease. Call mover. Cancel the refundable venue hold. I'd put down just in case for next spring. Remove Ethan from anything attached to my name. No drama. All logistics. It wasn't that I didn't feel. It was that feeling had become dangerous. Like if I let it spill, I'd drown in it. So I treated my own heart like a sprained joint. Stabilize first, then heal. The ring store was the worst part. Not because anyone said anything cruel. No one did. But because the woman behind the counter smiled at me, the way people smile when they assume you're excited. Engagement? She asked, cheerful. I swallowed. Return. Her smile shifted, a tiny crack in her expression. Oh, she didn't push. She didn't ask for the story. She just processed the refund like my pain was paperwork. And maybe that was a mercy. When I walked out, the ring box was gone. So was the future I'd imagined. 2 days later, I signed a lease on a one-bedroom apartment that smelled like paint and dust. One room, a cracked window, a radiator that made clanking noises every few hours like it was haunted by bad decisions. I moved in with 2 duffel bags, a mattress I bought off Marketplace, and 1 pan. That was it. No framed photos. No shared mugs. No candle that smelled like Ethan's reset walks. Just empty space. And quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like a bruise. I was sitting on the floor eating cereal out of the box when someone knocked. I opened the door and there was Riley, holding a cardboard box like she'd robbed a kitchen. She pushed past me without asking. "You're living like a divorced monk," she said, setting the box down. I blinked. I call it minimalist. Riley lifted the flaps. Inside were plates, forks, a coffee maker, and a roll of paper towels like a peace offering. "And I'd like you to stop romanticizing your depression," she said, "because you don't even have forks." "I can eat with a spoon." "You can also drink soup out of a shoe," she shot back. "Doesn't mean you should." That was Riley. No sympathy, no soft voice. Just practical love delivered like a shove. It was exactly what I needed. That night, she dragged me to the park for pickup basketball, even though I told her I was too tired. "Great," she said. "Being tired is perfect. You can't overthink if you're gasping for air." We played under flickering lights. My body moved on instinct. I didn't have to be Ava, who was cheated on. I just had to pass, shoot, and keep breathing. At one point, Riley sank 2 threes in a row and yelled, "I'm built different." "Built like a badly assembled IKEA chair," I called back. She laughed so hard she missed the next shot. And for 30 seconds, 30 stupid seconds, I forgot Ethan existed. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Ethan, Ava, please, I messed up. I need to talk." My stomach tightened like a fist closing. Riley glanced over. "Him?" I didn't answer. I just blocked the number. My thumb moved faster than my heart. The first few weeks were quiet, which is how I knew it wouldn't last. Because Ethan didn't love quiet. He loved comfort. And I'd been his comfort. Comfort doesn't leave without getting chased. The messages started coming like waves, long paragraphs, voice notes, emails sent to my work address. He tried every version of himself. The guilty one, the nostalgic one, the angry one, the spiritual one. "We have a connection. Don't throw away 4 years. Lara meant nothing." I wasn't thinking. "You're being cold. You always shut down. I need closure." Closure. The favorite word of people who want to reopen wounds they created. I read the first message out of pure curiosity, like looking at a car crash after you've already walked away. Halfway through, I stopped, because the tone wasn't love. It was entitlement wearing apology, like perfume. So I blocked him again, and again. He kept finding cracks. New emails, old social accounts, DMs from accounts I didn't recognize. Riley called it an apology subscription. "Cancel it," she told me. "I am." "Then cancel harder." So I did. Silence, I learned, is the cleanest boundary. It gives them nothing to argue with. No new lines to twist. No emotion to feed on. Then the social media posts started. Not from Ethan, from Lara. Of course. Mutual friends began sending me screenshots like they were delivering breaking news. Photo of her in a hoodie, looking fragile. Caption, "Healing after betrayal." A sunset, dramatic and filtered like a movie poster. Caption, "Sometimes good people make bad mistakes." Another, a quote about forgiveness. Caption, "I know my worth." My throat tightened. Because I recognized what she was doing. She wasn't healing. She was auditioning. She was building a version of the story where she wasn't the villain. Where she was the misunderstood woman. Where Ethan made a mistake. Where I was cold. Where I abandoned them. I texted Riley. She's launching a PR campaign. Riley replied immediately. Blockbuster flop. I laughed once, bitter. And then I blocked Lara too. All her accounts. Every variation. Every backup. I didn't want to see her face. Not because it hurt. Because it made me feel something worse than hurt. It made me feel stupid for ever thinking she was in the past. By the second month, I had my rhythm down. Work, gym, groceries, meal prep. Sundays, laundry, and one-on-one basketball with Riley in the park. Nothing exciting, but clean. No noise. No drama. And slowly I started to like the quiet. Then one morning, after a brutal clinic day, the front desk paged me. "There's someone here for you," the receptionist said. I stepped out expecting a patient's family member. It was Ethan. He stood there holding a small cardboard box, pretending to be calm, like he was dropping off a package instead of detonating my peace. I stopped a few feet away. He looked tired, not the kind of tired that comes from regret. The kind that comes from not getting what you want. I just wanted to drop off your things, he said, voice careful. Like, we're adults. I stared at the box, then at him. Didn't realize you worked for UPS now. His jaw flexed. Ava, can we talk for a second? No, I said. Not loud. Not cruel. Just final. He held the box out anyway. At least take it. I took it, because I didn't want him making a scene in my workplace. I looked inside. Random junk. An old hoodie. A charger. A paperback I forgot I owned. Things he could pretend made him thoughtful. I signed the clinic delivery log like he was a courier. Handed him the pen. Thanks for playing delivery guy, I said. His eyes widened, confused, hurt, angry, because he expected tears. He expected a crack. He expected me to prove that what we had mattered. And maybe it did, but not enough to keep me. He swallowed. Lara. I lifted a hand. Don't, I said quietly. The word hit the air like a warning label. He stared at me, searching for the old Ava. The one who explained. The one who soothed. The one who stayed. But that Ava was gone. Finally, Ethan nodded once, stiff, and walked out fast, before anyone could watch him lose. That night, Riley called. You okay? She asked, voice casual but sharp underneath. Fine, I said. You sound fine like a woman who's fine because she refuses to think. That's the point, I said. Thinking is what gets people in trouble. Riley laughed. So what's next, Miss Logic? Work, gym, sleep, repeat. Romantic. I'm in a committed relationship with progress. Riley snorted. Good, keep it that way. And I meant to. I really did. But the next week, the screenshots started again. Not from friends. From my own phone. Because Lara, like a parasite that can't survive without attention, found a new way in. A new account. No profile picture. A comment under a photo of me at the gym. Funny how fast some people forget real love. I stared at it, the cold crawling up my spine. Because it wasn't random trolling. It was her. I knew her writing like a fingerprint. I blocked the account. Then another appeared. Then another. Each one a little sharper. A little more personal. A little more desperate. And underneath the irritation, something else began to stir. Not fear. Not yet. A warning. A quiet sense that Lara wasn't just angry, I left. She was angry I stopped being available. And people like her, they don't forgive that. They punish it. I opened my laptop and created a folder. I named it something simple. Lara. And I started saving everything, because the quiet was still mine. But I could feel the noise circling, like it was waiting for a bigger stage. Riley says there are two kinds of pain. The kind that screams, and the kind that goes quiet and waits for you to trip. By the third month after Ethan, mine had gone quiet, which was how I knew I was healing, or becoming dangerous to myself. My apartment stayed intentionally bare. One chair, one table, laptop, mattress on the floor. I liked knowing exactly where everything was. I liked that nothing in the space could surprise me. Surprises had lost their appeal. Work filled the days. The clinic was steady. Post-surgical knees, car accident recoveries, the usual rotation of people learning how to trust their bodies again. I picked up extra shifts not because I needed the money, but because routine is a sedative if you take it consistently enough. My coworkers noticed. You've been sharp lately, my supervisor said one afternoon. Focused. I smiled politely. Nothing to distract me, I said. She nodded, assuming ambition. What I meant was peace. The messages from Lara slowed, then stopped. The burner accounts disappeared one by one. Either she got bored, or she found a new mirror. I didn't care which. For the first time since that night, my nervous system unclenched. That's when Riley decided to ruin it. She called me on a Thursday night while I was meal prepping chicken and rice like I was training for a competition I never signed up for. You free Saturday? She asked. Define free. My cousin's wedding. I stopped stirring. Absolutely not. You're coming. I don't know your cousin. Exactly, she said. Which means no one there has emotional expectations of you. Free food, open bar, possible men who don't cheat. I sighed. I don't want to be around Joy right now. Riley laughed. That's exactly why you need to be. I'll pass. I'm picking you up at 6. The line went dead. Saturday arrived, whether I agreed or not. I found myself sitting in Riley's truck, wearing a navy dress I hadn't touched since Ethan's friend's engagement party, back when irony was still funny. Riley looked smug. You clean up well, she said. Try not to scare people with your emotional stability. Rude? The venue was a renovated barn just outside the city. String lights. warm wood, people smiling like nothing bad had ever happened to them. I felt like a ghost walking through a party I didn't belong to. I grabbed a drink and positioned myself near the back, where expectations go to die. That's when I saw him. He was standing near the dance floor, camera in hand, crouched low to get a shot. Focused, still, not performing. Not smiling for anyone, just working. Something about that caught my attention. He moved with purpose, but not urgency, like he trusted time instead of chasing it. When he stood up, he looked directly at me. Didn't look away. Didn't pretend he hadn't noticed. Just held the eye contact for half a second longer than polite. Then nodded, like we'd silently acknowledged each other's existence. That alone made him different. Riley noticed immediately. "Oh no," she muttered. "Don't even think about it." "Relax," I said. "I'm just appreciating good lighting." She squinted at me. "You're lying." Half an hour later, I ended up at the bar next to him. He ordered a ginger ale. So did I. He glanced at my glass. Smart choice. "I'm pacing myself," I said. "Too many strangers." He smiled, small but real. "Fair. That camera ever take a break?" I asked. He didn't look up. Only when people stopped staring at it. I laughed before I could stop myself. "Guess it's working overtime tonight." He finally looked at me then, really looked. "Do you always open conversations by insulting people's equipment?" "Only when I'm nervous." "You don't seem nervous." "I'm very good at hiding symptoms." That earned a quiet laugh. We talked in the gaps between his shots. Nothing heavy, nothing forced. His name was Noah Bennett. He ran his own photography business. Quit a corporate job 2 years earlier to do it full time. "Best decision I ever made," he said. "Worst financially?" I guessed. He grinned. "Disastrous." "Worth it?" "Every day." I nodded. I respect that. "Do you always talk like a risk analyst?" he asked. "Only when I'm avoiding talking about myself." He tilted his head slightly. Curious, but didn't push. That told me more than anything he could have asked. Riley found me later, eyes wide. "You're actually talking to someone," she whispered. "Should I call the press?" I ignored her. Noah raised an eyebrow. "Your friend seems supportive." "She thinks emotional avoidance is a personality flaw." He smiled. "She's probably not wrong." By the end of the night, Noah handed me his phone. "If you ever want coffee," he said. No pressure. I typed my number in without overthinking it. That alone felt like progress. 2 days later, he texted, "Coffee this week?" We met at a small place near the river. No planning, no expectations. He showed up in jeans and a hoodie, camera bag slung over one shoulder like it was part of him. No filters, no performance. The first date turned into 3. Coffee became walks. Walks became takeout eaten in his car while we talked about stupid things. Bad gym mirrors, music we pretended not to like. Why everyone at weddings cries at the wrong moments. He didn't ask about Ethan. Didn't ask why I flinched when my phone buzzed. Didn't try to excavate me like I was a problem to solve. He just matched my pace, which was new. I realized one night, while we were wandering through a thrift store because he liked hunting for props, that I wasn't bracing myself around him. He held up a rusted lamp. "You don't like old things?" he asked. "I've had enough nostalgia for a lifetime," I said. He nodded once. Fair. No follow-up. No therapy voice. That alone felt like trust. Weeks passed. Texts turned into plans. Plans turned into routine. Work, gym, Noah. It slipped into my life so quietly I didn't notice the space it filled until it was already occupied. When I stayed late at the clinic, he didn't complain. When he edited until 1 in the morning, I didn't take it personally. We met in the middle, physically and emotionally. One night, he showed me a few photos from the wedding. One of them was of me standing near the dance floor, arms crossed, half smiling like I was judging everyone and myself at the same time. "You took this?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "You looked steady." I stared at it longer than necessary. "That one's going in my portfolio," he added. "Do I get royalties?" "You charge by expression?" "Absolutely." After that, seeing him stopped feeling like dating. It felt like alignment. By the 3rd month, I realized something strange. I hadn't thought about Lara in weeks. Not because I was forcing it, because my life had grown full again. Not loud, not dramatic, just occupied. Noah texted one evening while I was finishing a late shift. "Dinner or walk?" "Walk," I replied. "Less cleanup." We met by the river. City lights reflected off the water. He handed me a coffee without asking how I took it. He remembered. "You always this quiet?" he asked. "Only when things feel right," I said. He smiled. No big moment. No declaration. Just 2 people walking side by side, leaving space between them where neither felt the need to fill it. That was when I knew. Not love yet, but peace. And peace, I'd learned, was the rarest foundation there is. I just didn't know yet that someone from my past was watching that piece from the sidelines, waiting for the moment it looked permanent. Because that's when people like Lara make their move. Peace has a sound. It's quiet enough that you don't notice it until something tries to break it. By the time Noah and I moved in together, my life had settled into something that felt earned. No dramatic conversations, no ultimatums. We just got tired of hauling overnight bags between apartments. We found a small 2-bedroom in Somerville. Good light, clean kitchen, enough space for his camera gear and my pull-up bar. The kind of place that didn't pretend to be anything other than functional. Somewhere in the second month, we adopted Pixel, a rescue mutt with uneven ears and the personality of a chaotic intern. He slept under Noah's desk while he edited and treated tripods like personal enemies. The second bedroom became Noah's studio within a week. Cameras, lenses, backdrops, coffee mugs in various states of neglect. I claimed a corner of the living room for my laptop and resistance bands. We joked that it was his and hers chaos. Living together was easy because neither of us enjoyed drama. When Noah worked late, I didn't hover. When I zoned out doing clinic billing reports, he didn't take it personally. If something bothered us, we said it plainly. No guessing games? That alone felt revolutionary. I introduced him to Riley and my sister Claire within the first few months. Claire arrived with wine and an opinion already loaded. Noah answered the door in a paint-stained t-shirt, hair a mess from editing. 10 minutes later, they were deep into a conversation about some competitive cooking show, like they'd known each other for years. Claire leaned over later and whispered, "He's normal. Keep him." "That's the plan," I said. Riley was less subtle. She walked in, scanned the apartment, clocked Noah and Pixel wrestling on the floor, and nodded. "You look annoying happy," she said. Noah smiled. "I've been called worse." "Good," Riley said. "Means you'll survive her." That was my life now. Stable. Predictable. Which was exactly when Lara resurfaced. Not in person. Online. It started small. A tag and an old photo from years ago. Ethan's birthday dinner, everyone younger, softer. Caption. Some people forget who loved them first. I didn't. I stared at it for a full 10 seconds. Then I blocked her account again. No response. No reaction. Silence. Noah noticed before I said anything. "Everything okay?" he asked, glancing at my phone. "Yeah," I said. "Just background noise." He nodded. "Want me to worry?" "No," I said honestly. "She wants attention. I'm not giving it oxygen." That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The comments started appearing under Noah's engagement posts, because yes, we were engaged by then. Clean ring, no speeches, no spectacle. I'd proposed one night after dinner by sliding the box across the table and saying, "I'd rather build than rebuild." He laughed, hugged me, and said yes without hesitation. 2 weeks after we posted the photos, the noise began. Accounts with no profile pictures. Usernames stitched together from numbers and old nicknames I recognized too well. Funny how fast people fake happiness. Real chemistry can't be replaced. Ask Ava who she really loved. I blocked them. Deleted. Moved on. Until one comment appeared under a photo from my clinic's page. Ask Ava why she hides her feelings for Lara. The truth always leaks. That one stuck. Not because it hurt. Because it crossed a line. My work was off limits. Noah saw my face change. "She's escalating," he said calmly. "Yes," I agreed, which means I stopped pretending this is nothing. That night, I opened my laptop and expanded the folder I'd already started. Screenshots, dates, URLs. I added a new subfolder. Work interference. Riley came over with takeout and zero patience. "She's starting a fan club for rejection," she said, scrolling through the screenshots. "I should start charging admission." "She's bored," I said, "and bored people get creative." "Creative like arsonists," Riley replied. Noah didn't joke. He watched quietly, absorbing the pattern. "She wants to provoke you," he said, "or scare you, or make herself unavoidable." "All three," I said. "So what's the move?" I closed the laptop. "We document," I said, "and we get ahead of it." The next wave hit Noah's photography business. 3 one-star reviews appeared overnight on Google Maps. New accounts. Same tone. Same syntax. Same bitterness dressed up as concern. "This studio is a scam. She uses client photos without permission. Took my deposit and ghosted me." Noah read them aloud, half amused, half irritated. "She really thinks this will work." I was already taking screenshots. "Apparently she's trying creative writing," I said. Riley, on FaceTime, whistled. "She's escalating to professional sabotage. Bold strategy." Noah shook his head. "I can dispute these. Google's pretty quick. And we'll report everything," I added. "Every platform, every instance." We did. 2 reviews disappeared within a day. The third took a week. Lara wasn't subtle. She never had been. But this time, she wasn't just embarrassing herself. She was threatening livelihoods. That's when Noah stopped laughing. I don't like that she knows where I work, he said quietly. I didn't either. Which is why the next step wasn't emotional. It was legal. I called a lawyer the next morning. By the end of the week, we'd filed for a temporary restraining order. It wasn't dramatic. Just paperwork. Just facts. Just evidence. The order came through faster than I expected. Noah read it over my shoulder when the email arrived. You think she'll care? He asked. No, I said. But now it's on record. He nodded. Good. We both thought that would cool things down. We were wrong. Because Laura's final move before the wedding wasn't digital. It was physical. It happened on a Saturday morning at Noah's studio. A family shoot, 2 kids, normal weekend energy. I'd stopped by to help move lights before heading to the gym. Around 10, Noah's assistant Maya came to the back room, eyes sharp. There's a woman here asking for a walk-in, she whispered. Says she knows you. My stomach dropped. Did she give a name? Noah asked. Maya hesitated. Laura. The air shifted. Noah straightened immediately. Don't let her back here. Call the police. Tell them there's a restraining order. Maya nodded without question. I stepped toward the front, just as 2 officers walked in. Laura was sitting in the waiting area, scrolling her phone like she was early for an appointment. When she saw me, her calm cracked. Oh, she said, standing. Look who's here. You're trespassing, I said evenly. I'm supporting local business, she snapped. One of the officers stepped forward. Ma'am, you need to leave. Laura pointed past me toward Noah. See, she's obsessed with me. You both are. Noah crossed his arms. You came here. That's what stalkers say, Laura laughed, loud and unhinged. The officers didn't engage. They escorted her out while she yelled about false narratives and stolen lives, and how everyone was twisting her story. The family waiting for their shoot whispered to Maya, who handled it like a professional. Rescheduled, refunded, apologized. When the door finally locked, Noah exhaled. You ever notice how some people choose delusion like a hobby? He said. Daily, I replied. That night, Riley came over again. We reviewed the new screenshots. She's spiraling, Riley said, and spirals don't end quietly. No, I agreed. They end publicly. The lawyer filed to extend the restraining order. This time it became permanent. I printed the document and pinned it to the fridge. Noah walked by and raised an eyebrow. Decoration? Motivation, I said. Peace is earned. We didn't see Laura again in person before the wedding. The fake account slowed. The reviews vanished. The inbox stayed quiet. But I didn't relax. Because people like Laura don't disappear. They wait. And I had a feeling she was saving her last performance for the biggest audience she could find. People think weddings are about spectacle. They're not. They're about pressure. Pressure from families, from expectations, from memory. From every version of yourself that ever imagined what this day was supposed to look like. Noah and I stripped all of that away on purpose. Small ceremony. 50 people. A quiet venue in the Berkshires where the air felt clean and the walls didn't echo. We chose it because it felt calm. Because after everything, calm wasn't boring. It was sacred. The week leading up to the wedding was almost suspiciously peaceful. No burner accounts, no comments, no emails. Nothing. Riley kept saying, this is the part in horror movies where everything goes quiet before the jump scare. I told her she watched too much true crime. But I still checked the locks twice at night. The restraining order was already on file with the venue. We'd briefed staff, hired 2 security guards, not because we wanted drama, but because we refused to be unprepared. Peace doesn't mean naive. It means protected. The morning of the wedding arrived soft and clear. No nerves, no chaos. Just sunlight spilling across wooden floors and the sound of chairs being arranged. Claire cried while helping me with my dress, even though nothing emotional had happened yet. I just like him for you, she said, dabbing her eyes. He doesn't take up all the air. That was the highest compliment she could give. Noah looked steady when I saw him before the ceremony. Not giddy, not overwhelmed. Present. Riley straightened his jacket like she was inspecting a soldier. You ready? She asked him. I think so, he said. She looked at me. You? Yes, I said, and I meant it. The music started. Noah walked in first, took his place, hands folded like he was waiting for something he trusted would arrive. Then it was my turn. I stepped into the aisle and everything else fell away. Not in a dramatic way, in a grounding one. This wasn't escape. This was arrival. We met halfway, hands finding each other naturally. The officiant began. The first 10 minutes were perfect, quiet, attentive. Then the doors opened. I didn't turn right away. I didn't need to. I felt the shift before I saw it. The way the room inhaled sharply, like something had just entered that didn't belong. Then a flash of red moved into my peripheral vision. And there she was, Laura. wearing a red dress like she was the headline, not the guest. Hair perfect, makeup sharp, holding a small bouquet that looked like it came from a grocery store someone grabbed in a hurry. She smiled like she'd rehearsed it in a mirror. Entitled, confident. Wrong. Ava, she called, loud enough to bounce off the walls. That ring was supposed to be mine. The room froze. Noah's hand tightened around mine, not shaking, just firm. Lara walked forward slowly, like the aisle was hers. I'm the real fiancé, she announced. You promised me that ring. Riley muttered behind us. You've got to be kidding. I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. Security, I said calmly, like I was asking for a pen. The guard stepped out immediately. Lara's smile faltered, but she pushed through it. You can't marry him, she said, pointing at Noah. She stole my life. You said you'd never stop loving me. I looked at her fully for the first time. That was before you started sharing it with Ethan, I said evenly. Her face flickered. She dropped the bouquet and pointed at me. She took everything from me. Noah spoke before I could. You should leave, Lara. She laughed, sharp and hysterical. She's wearing my ring. The guards reached her. Ma'am, please come with us. Don't touch me, she snapped, pulling away. Ava, tell them you know this isn't right. I shook my head once. Escort her out. Her performance collapsed. She switched to crying mid-sentence, the way people do when they realize they've lost the audience. Outside the open doors, I caught the reflection of blue lights. Police. Waiting. We'd already provided the restraining order to the venue and local PD. They handled it cleanly, professionally. The doors closed. Silence filled the room. I turned back to our guests. Sorry for the interruption, I said. Someone had the wrong venue. Laughter rippled, awkward at first, then real. The officiant smiled, relieved. Shall we continue? Yes, I said. Noah squeezed my hand. Our vows were short, honest. No performances. I promise to choose you, Noah said, especially on quiet days when nothing needs fixing. When it was my turn, I didn't look at anyone else. You know who I am, I said. I don't do games. I don't do chaos. I'm choosing you, and I'm staying. The officiant finished. We were married. Just like that. Applause filled the room. Relief followed. Riley slapped Noah on the back. You owe me a drink for running interference. Add it to the tab, I said. By the time we stepped outside for photos, the police car was gone. So was Lara. Someone said the officers were calm, respectful, efficient. That was all I wanted. Quiet. Later, during the reception, small, warm, human, Noah leaned over. You okay? Yes, I said. She just reminded me what I don't miss. He smiled. Fair. The night ended without incident. No speeches about her. No lingering tension. Just music, food, and people who actually belonged there. But I knew something. People like Lara don't leave without trying to rewrite the ending. And sure enough, 3 months later, an envelope arrived. No return address. Law firm letterhead. I opened it. 1 page. Lara Daniels requests a mediated conversation for emotional closure following your marriage. I read it once, twice, then laughed. I snapped a photo and sent it to my lawyer, then dropped the letter straight into the trash. Because closure isn't something you owe the person who tried to burn your life down. And I was done feeding fires. The letter stayed in the trash. Not because I was angry, not because I was afraid, but because by then, I finally understood something that took me years to learn. Closure is a story people tell themselves when they don't want to accept an ending they didn't control. Lara didn't want closure. She wanted relevance, and I wasn't giving it to her. Life after the wedding settled into something almost boring, which after everything felt like a reward. Mornings started slow, coffee on the balcony, pixel pacing between Noah and me like a referee making sure neither of us forgot he existed. The city hummed below, cars, voices, movement, but our space stayed quiet. Noah edited photos in the living room, lights spilling across his screens. I answered clinic emails, stretched between sets, planned the week. Nothing was on fire. Nothing needed saving. That was new. One morning, Noah glanced over his laptop and said, You ever think she'll try again? I didn't answer right away. I watched steam rise from my coffee. Probably, I said, but not in a way that matters. How do you know? Because she doesn't want me, I said calmly. She wants the version of herself she lost when I stopped reacting. He nodded slowly. That's uncomfortably accurate. The restraining order held. No burner accounts. No surprise emails. No reviews. Nothing. Either Lara had finally burned through her own energy, or she'd found a new mirror somewhere else. I hoped it was the second one. Not out of kindness. Out of practicality. Riley came over one evening with takeout and her usual lack of subtlety. So, she said, dropping onto the couch, any updates from your personal Netflix villain? No, I said. She squinted. Huh, that's either growth or foreshadowing. I'll take growth. She grinned. Proud of you, by the way. For what? For choosing boring, she said. People underestimate how brave that is. I smiled at that, because boring wasn't empty. It was full of things that didn't hurt. A month later, my lawyer emailed. No further contact. Order remains clean. If anything changes, you'll be notified. I forwarded it to Noah with a single word. Done. He replied with a thumbs up emoji and a picture of Pixel asleep on his feet. I laughed. That night, we stood on the balcony again. The air was cool, the city lights soft instead of loud. Noah leaned against the railing, camera strap already over his shoulder out of habit. You ever miss who you were before all this? He asked. I thought about it. About the woman who carried a ring in her pocket. About the woman who believed consistency meant loyalty. About the woman who tried to be understanding at her own expense. No, I said honestly. I miss the innocence sometimes, but not the confusion. He lifted the camera. Hold that, he said. The shutter clicked. Later, when I saw the photo, I understood why he took it. I looked steady. Not triumphant. Not hardened. Just grounded. Weeks turned into months. The story faded into background noise, then into memory. Not erased. Integrated. I stopped checking over my shoulder. Stopped bracing for the next message. Stopped rehearsing responses I'd never send. Peace didn't arrive all at once. It accumulated, slowly, through boundaries that held. One afternoon, while I was washing dishes, Noah asked casually, You think she ever realized she was the villain? I smiled faintly. Villains don't read the script, I said. They just complain about the ending. He laughed. Pixel barked like he agreed. The last thing I ever heard about Lara came secondhand. A mutual acquaintance mentioned she'd moved cities, changed jobs, posted something vague about new beginnings, and finally being seen. I didn't ask where. I didn't look it up. Some stories don't need an epilogue. They just need distance. Now, when I think back to that night, the ring, the bedroom, the lie, it feels strangely quiet in my head. Not dull. Resolved. Because that night didn't ruin my life. It redirected it. I didn't win by being louder. I didn't win by humiliating her. I won by leaving and staying gone. By choosing boundaries over explanations. By choosing peace over being understood. If there's one thing I know now, it's this. Peace isn't luck. It isn't timing. It isn't finding the right person. It's what happens when you stop negotiating with people who only know how to take. Noah steps onto the balcony beside me, slipping his hand into mine. Pixel flops at our feet. The city hums. Nothing is burning. Nothing is chasing me. And for the first time in my adult life, that feels like everything.